Hey guys, it's Mint. So today I wanted to talk about a little bit when it comes to Fury Warrior talent and glyphs and kind of the options that you have to play around with. Go right into it, kind of go point by point, which ones you should take no matter what, and which ones you can kind of play around with. So we'll just start right off and start building this out here. Armor to the teeth, we always want this maxed out. There's no question to that. Cruelty as well gives us increased crit. This is always maxed out. Now, the next point is going to be where we're going to have a crossroads between the two builds. The first build I'm going to show is going to be more of a progression style build with less DPS. So in that build, we're going to be using Booming Voice, which is going to increase the duration of our shouts by 50%. So those are going to be our 2 points. Improved Cleave, we will always take 3 points into that. And in the build where we're using Booming Voice, we're going to be doing 5 points into Commanding Presence. What this is going to do is if we don't have a Paladin with improved might, our Battle Shout will give the same amount, which is the maximum. Or if we have a Paladin with might, we will be using Commanding Shout and it's going to give more health, which is going to be very, very beneficial for progression because everybody will have more health. Quick note on this, due to the last boss in phase 3 being a noob and him actually healing based on your current health, it might actually be beneficial to not use this because the less health you have, the less he leeches because he does percentage based damage. But it's a minor thing. Dual wield specialization, we always have full 5 points into this. Improved execute on this build, we skip it. And rage, on paper, this looks like a very easy pick. Gives you a 30% chance to receive a 2% damage bonus for 12 seconds after being the victim of a damaging attack. This does not stack with Wrecking Crew. So you have to take damage, which you will. Any AoE damage can proc this, and it scales up to 10% with 5 points. But the problem with this is considered an enrage, but so is your death wish. Essentially what it means is if you have enrage available and active and you proc death wish, it is going to cancel enrage. So long story short, it is a waste because it gets canceled by any enrage, same as Berserker Rage. This will cancel enrage. And you will want to use Berserker Rage sometimes. It's not worth it at all. So always skip this completely. Precision, we always take 3 points here. If you have some crazy build where you have a lot of hit for some reason, which is very rare, you might want to take a point off and put it somewhere else. But usually we're going to be chasing that bis, and if we have a bad setup of gear currently, it's usually not worth talenting out, and then once we get that upgrade talent back into this, if you really want to do that, you can. But I really, if I'm over hit capped because of gear, I'll just keep this in because if you put it into somewhere else, it's literally 5 DPS, so it's not that big of a deal. Death Wish, obviously, this is our main cooldown. Improved Intercept, we skip this. Improved Berserker Rage, we skip this as well. We really do not need extra rage. Flurry, this is pretty important. We always take full points into this. Bloodthirst, obviously our main hitting ability. Intensify Rage, this is a must. It reduces our main cooldown's cooldown. Improved Whirlwind increases our whirlwind damage by 20%. That's pretty self-explanatory here. This is our healing reduction. I mean, sometimes I've played around with this in 10 mans when we needed healing reduction if we didn't have a rogue or something on some of the bosses, but we obviously don't need this. Improved Berserker Stance. Full points into this increases our strength by 20% and it reduces the threat caused by 10% while at Berserker Stance, which is kind of nice, but our heroic strikes have improved threat just by default, and it's so easy to pull threat even with this, so it's mainly because of the strength, obviously. Rampage, if you're comfortable and confident you will always have a feral druid, you can skip this point. But even if you have a feral druid, if he messes up, if he dies, if something happens, I just don't feel like it's worth not taking it because any other point you put it in is going to be such a small DPS increase that the odds of somebody else dying and you not having 5% crit, it's just going to be worse overall. So I always take this point here. Blood Surge, your Heroic Strike, Bloodthirst, and Whirlwind hits have 37% chance of making your next slam instant, which is very important. It's our main proc. Heroic Fury, that's a PvP talent. We don't care about this. We take full points into Unending Fury. Increases the damage done of your Slam, Whirlwind, and Bloodthirst abilities by 10%, which is pretty big. And obviously our main thing at the end, Titan's Grip, we all know what this does. Protection, we completely skip, and then we go to improved Heroic Strike to make our Heroic Strike cost only 12 rage, and we take improved Rend to do more Rend damage once we do our Rend stance dancing on single target bosses. Tactical Mastery, we want to have this in 3 points because when we do a stance dance, we do retain an additional 15 rage, which is very important, so that when we come back from battle to back to Berserker stance, we have at least some rage to play with, so we can at least queue up a Heroic Strike or something. You could take improved charge. I personally never charge in because the rage that you're gonna get with the charge, you're just gonna lose by going back into Berserker stance. So I really never use it. I always either intercept in or rocket boots in. Iron Will, so that's why I take 2 points into here. It just reduces stun. So if there is a stun, you get out of it faster, you have more uptime. I feel like it's a better DPS increase than getting 10 extra rage on pull. Better to get out of a stun 14% faster. Our bread and butter, Impale, increases our critical strike bonus damage by 20% and deep wounds, which is very, very important. It's our main dot that stacks up every time we crit with anything melee hits or special abilities. Then obviously we want two-handed weapon specialization, which increases our damage with two-handed weapons by 6%, and that wraps up the build. It's 18-53-0. This is our progression style build, and that build is, if you like, for example, Algalon does a lot of damage, we want improved commanding shout, stuff like that. Once you have it on farm, you have a lot of gear, you don't care about the extra health from commanding shout, you can switch to this build for extra damage. We'll just do that build variation now, and then we'll do the glyphs because the glyphs are the same for both builds. So what we will want to do, everything will stay the same except you will take out points from commanding presence. You will put 2 points into improved execute. Execute is whatever, but it's the best 2 points we can spend here to increase our damage. We're going to take out the rest of the points, and we're going to put 4 points into unbridled wrath. So we're going to take 1 point each here. Okay, 3 points in brittle wrath. We're going to take out 1 point from Booming Voice. Again, take it out from Booming Voice. So we have 4 points here, and our last point is going to go to Anger Management. Generates 1 rage per 3 seconds. It's a toss-up between the 5th point in Brittle Wrath or Anger Management. They're pretty much identical, so I just kind of do this. And this is our more damage build. With the full BIS tier phase 3 gear that I've done some testing on in my previous videos, which you can check out down below, it's been 50 DPS difference. So it was like 11,480 something DPS with this, and it was like 11,430-ish with the commanding shout build. So it's not a big deal. If everybody stays alive, there's more DPS. So in the first couple of weeks, I'll probably be running the commanding shout build, and then I'm going to swap over to this one once we kind of get a bit comfortable with the runs. So glyphs, major glyphs, you have 2 static choices. Your first static choice is Glyph of Heroic Strike. This is a must. You gain 10 range when you critically strike with your Heroic Strike ability, and because it costs 15, minus 3 is 12. So if Heroic Strike crits, it effectively costs 2 rage, which is ridiculous. Plus our 4-set bonus increases our crit chance with Heroic Strike by an additional 5%. It's going to be insane. Our second, a must glyph, is Glyph of Whirlwind. Reduces the cooldown of Whirlwind by 2 seconds. You always take this no matter what. Now this is our flex glyph, Our first single target option is Glyph of Rending, which increases the duration of rend by 6 seconds. So this is a no-brainer. If you're not going to cleave more than 1 target, you will always take rending, because cleave by default hits the main target and the target next to it. So if you have 2 targets on the fight or 1, you will always take Glyph of Rending. So when you do rend weaving, if there's 3 or more targets in the fight, you will want to swap that glyph with Glyph of Cleaving, which makes cleave hit 3 targets instead of 2. That's very important. Minor glyphs. Here, I usually took Glyph of Blood Rage. Obviously, it reduces the health cost of Blood Rage, just makes it not do damage. It usually does maybe like a couple hundred health. It's not a big deal. But I will be swapping this in phase 3 for this Glyph of Shattering Throw. It's a new one that's going to be added in, and they have it here in Wowhead. So I'll be swapping this instead of Glyph of Blood Rage. So I'll be using it here. You can do one thing that I'm going to show you in a second, but this is what I will do because I'm a bit lazy, so I kind of go this route. Glyph of Battle increases the duration of Battle Shout, and Glyph of Command increases the duration of Command Shout. So I kind of like to run both of these in case I ever have to switch either or mid-raid. I don't have to worry about Glyphs because they only last 2 minutes by default. They last 4 minutes with the Glyph and 6 minutes if you have booming voice. 2 minutes is just not enough, and you're gonna have to use, like, if you have to use shouts mid-fight during your rotation, it's gonna be a DPS loss. A, it costs rage, and B, it uses up a GCD. Unless it's a 2-minute fight, which is unlikely. At least most of them are 4 minutes. And if it's longer, there's phases, so you can reapply it mid-fight without losing DPS. Like on a noob, you can reapply it in the phase 2. So 4 minutes is going to be fine, but 2 minutes is just not going to cut it. Plus, you're going to forget about it, and you're going to not apply it, and it's just going to be a bad time for everybody. If you really want to try hard, you can keep a lot of these glyphs in your bags, and you can have a permanent slot for Glyph of Blood Rage, so you take a little bit less damage. It's up to you. If you're really not gonna die from using Blood Rage, so it's like a Warlock life tap. Like a Warlock's not gonna die from life tap, you're not gonna die from Blood Rage, so you're gonna be absolutely fine just running both of these glyphs. So this is gonna be the glyph setup again. Cleaving and rending is what you're gonna be kind of swapping around with. Those are the main two ones, and both of them play exactly the same, and it's all pretty straightforward. So it's very simple to remember with just literally replacing these 2 with these 3, and that makes it very, very simple. So if you have any suggestion on a different build, which I'll try out and do some testing, let me know. Other than that, I mean, thank you for watching, and if you want any help with some macros to help you stance, or if you're looking for that phase 3 BIS, check out the videos at the end. Appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.